Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show. I'm checking levels because we kind of had to redo everything this morning, so I apologize. But welcome. I look extremely blurry on the capture that I'm seeing, so if we're not up to snuff here on YouTube, let me know, and I'll have to make some settings. But welcome. We're a Dungeons & Dragons podcast talking about all things D&D. And there is a bit of news to talk about, but I think audio levels seem okay. Great. But Lucian, how you doing? Let's check your audio levels.
I'm doing pretty good. I hope my audio levels are good, showing good on my side over here on Twitch. How about YouTube? Let me know, YouTube.
Fantastic. So what I decided to do one day is I have been enamored with the Linux Pop OS operating system. And so I went out and I'm like, oh, operating systems totally work like they did when I dual booted back in the early 2000s, right? So I went and bought a hard drive and I loaded Pop OS on it. And then all of a sudden Windows wouldn't load. And so I was like, what is going on? And Windows has the Windows bootloader, which is something that is maybe part of Windows 7, but definitely part of Windows 10. And Windows does not like you having more than one operating system on it. So, and it's a security measure. It's designed to be a security measure. But as I was looking at it, my sound dropped. Oh, am I okay though?
Good on Twitch.
But as my Windows tried to boot, it's just like, I can't do this anymore because the bootloader's gone. So I had to then install another bootloader that is not the Windows bootloader because it doesn't like it. And long story short, I had to reinstall Windows 10. And that wiped all of my settings and all of the software and installations. And I have all of the data backed up, but it's the act of putting it back in. Like, I have to reconfigure everything. That coupled with I had to watch my baby boy today. I just did not have time. But we're here.
We rushed and we got it here.
We're here. Yay. We're making it work. And yeah, so that is the long story of me. But now I successfully have Pop OS and Windows on one machine. And the reason for all of this is Windows 11 is coming out, and I'm just not a big fan of that. And a lot of subscription-based software is kind of getting frustrating to me. And I wanted to try out the Linux version of their video editor because it's completely free, and apparently it's pretty decent. And so I was like, oh, well, if I can video edit on Linux, they're already doing a really good thing of Steam for computer games. I actually installed No Man's Sky on my Linux, and it runs No Man's Sky pretty good. And I was like, okay, well, if I can do that, then if I can game on Linux, I can do all this other stuff, then I would be very happy. Yeah. So
that's good.
But I don't know if you guys are Linux fans, but I am. So I like the idea of like stream software. So it's
in
a Ubuntu flavor.
Software.
So, yeah. And I like tinkering and I like a lot of other things. So I don't know. It was kind of cool. And so I wanted to try out Pop OS. And now I have it working. So now I just have to find the time to edit a video with it and see if I like it as much as Premiere. Like, I'm trying to figure out what Premiere brings to the table. For me to just do like picture slide transitions, I don't really think I need a lot of that, you know?
The full Premiere experience, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of anxiety, I think, for most people, just because when you get your computer set up, if you're going to reload everything, you're reloading your drivers, you're reloading any programs that you used to use, you're putting your games back on, you're getting your full Steam library back up, and maybe you decide which games you're playing now and you leave some off, but then you're a content creator, so then you're like, okay, now I have to tackle all of the Streamlabs stuff or all of the OBS stuff or all of the...
And a lot of these software, like OBS is on Linux and stuff, but yeah, you're right. Like reconfiguring all of it, it's like, oh my God. So
it's like a big thing. So that's interesting.
It's intense. So that is, and boy, I had a lot of projects due this week, which we'll talk about. And let me tell you, I was sweating bullets. Like, am I going to get this installed in time? And I had a very late night Thursday night, I stayed up till well after midnight getting the video ready for Friday morning, which is part of the Dragori Games giveaway that they're doing. And cool I had to get that out on time, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And so luckily by Wednesday, I got my video stuff up and running. And now I have to make a couple more videos, so it's crazy. But
yeah, and what's cool about that is that's super D&D related for our D&D Saturday morning D&D show, because you could actually win one. I was going to ask you some questions about this.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of every Wizards of the Coast 5th edition released book.
Every Wizards of the Coast 5th edition book. Yeah.
And I assume it's at least one of them. You're not getting like the different cover variants.
No.
They're not like throwing in all those different.
And the other thing is there's only one winner. So a lot of people were just like, well, how many winners are there? And I'm like, there's just the one. But no, I don't think it's the alt covers. They didn't mention that, but it is every, and I said book, but it's actually product, because you're going to get the Stranger Things. No, and I shouldn't say product, because you're not getting the dice and stuff like that,
or like miniatures or stuff.
Or miniatures, you're not getting anything, but you are getting the Stranger Things book, the Rick and Morty, the beginner box, and then what was the other one? Essentials box or something?
Yeah.
The second one that they made.
Second one, Essentials.
Yeah.
D&D Essentials.
So all of the books, including Strixhaven, Witchlight, and
ones that are coming.
Yeah, the next three. So it's a incredible deal. Plus,
I would love that.
Their 3 books that they're bringing to the table for their Kickstarter that's going to start on the 31st. And after that, a bunch of board games, and you get to pick 3 board games that they want. But they were very clear to me. They were just like, these can't be like random Kickstarter board games.
Yeah.
No, like price is like negotiable, but like they are like, we don't want to have to like contact all of these weird companies that did a Kickstarter back in like 1980 and we can't find it. Not that there's Kickstarter in 1980, but you know what I mean? It has to be it has to be an accessible today board game kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
that's very cool. That's a nice giveaway, really. That's pretty big.
And it's kind of funny because they were like, I hope this like pushes you over 100K, and I was like, I'm literally like 50 away. I think it was going to happen on Friday regardless
of
doing this. But doing that, it did push me over the edge. So that
and it tied in with Ned from Nerd Immersion too. So Ted from Nerd Immersion.
Ted from Nerd Immersion.
I always think Nerd Immersion Ned then. He should change his name. So he kind of had a tie in there, I thought too. We saw some Discord traction on it too. And I just thought it was cool that you could win all those different books all at once. Because in a way, that's a pretty expensive endeavor if we just went out to our local game store and picked each one off the shelf, set it on that counter, and asked them to buy it. That's $50 a book.
Yeah, if you think $50 a book, but even doing it via like Amazon or something, all of a sudden it's like that's still like 30, 40 books or dollars a book. And how mmany books have they made now for 5e?
It feels like a lot. Most of them are on my shelf.
I know. I have quite a few too. I was going because I took a picture of all of my books. But
I probably have half of what they put out. So I bet they're somewhere around. I'm gonna say they're at 20, 21.
I don't know. There's got to be you think so?
22 books at this point, something like that. The one thing I've been looking for, I haven't really found them. If you guys out in YouTube land or Twitch land, remember they had said they were bringing out an alternate cover set for the 3 main books. So it was the Monster Manual, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Player's Handbook. They were going to put them in a box set, but they had a really cool alternate art style on the covers. And when it came through, I didn't get it at that time, but I want to get it now, and I have not been able to find it. So if anybody comes across that somewhere, let me know.
38 products, including the box sets of like Stranger Things and stuff. So yeah. Holy cow. So let's see if we calculate that, because I'm bad at
average.
Math. 38. We'll just say 38 times 40. That's up $1,500 worth of products.
If you're not signed up for that, you should go sign up for that right now.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah. And so, it's a partner shop. I'm not in it. I can't enter, but that's okay.
They didn't say Lucian couldn't, so Lucian might be signed up.
Yeah. So go ahead, but and if one of you guys, it would be really cool if a viewer won it, because then we could like showcase, but we probably, I mean, the contest is going to run for, I think 50 days or something, because they want it to run for the length of the Kickstarter to promote the Kickstarter. But,
and their Kickstarter is for 3 books that are coming up that they're doing for 5e stuff.
Yeah,
right?
This is weird. I wasn't going to turn this into a big Dragori Games talk about
right.
thing,
But it's interesting. I think.
So I made a video a while back because they contacted me, and basically Dragori Games has been making these tactical mini board games, and it's in their world of Tanaris that they've created for it. And I don't want to equate that to Gloomhaven, but I kind of do, in the sense of Gloomhaven's a board game, but it also has this world around it. And the only reason I talk about that is because I'm actively playing Gloomhaven. But there's this whole world around it.
There's lore.
They're making Gloomhaven comic books and stuff. Well, Tanaris is kind of the same thing. And so they're like, well, we want to make a 5e supplement. And so they're making a book that's got new classes and races that are specific to that world. It's a campaign setting. And then an adventure. And then another rule book, I think, for their unique spin that they want to put on it. But one of the things I find interesting is that they are making combat rules for PvP.
Right.
And that is where I'm like, we haven't really seen that. And so I'm very curious about how that is going to work. And I think they're keeping it I don't even know. I think they're keeping it hush hush just because of that. But the whole world kind of revolves around these magical dragons, and they've got a huge map. So if you want to play in that world, I don't know, a campaign setting is fun. It's fun to get ideas from different settings and stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think that's very cool. I'm going to definitely look into that.
And I think Edward Greenwood's kind of tied to it in some way, and Amy Vorpal's doing some stuff for it. So they've contacted some other people.
I feel like I've heard this world of Tanaris somehow. Maybe I've seen one of their other Kickstarters or something.
Maybe, yeah.
But it definitely sounds interesting.
This is their first RPG product. They have made board games, obviously, but so.
Yeah. To show we're not just a Grigori Games podcast show today, I did put the news in our notes. I know Jordan had a lot on his plate, so we didn't have too much there, but I threw some stuff in. So just to keep everybody in the loop, we're waiting patiently for The Wild Beyond the Witchlight 9/21. So we've got just about a full month, and that's going to drop for us for any of those that want the Witchlight and the our
Wild Beyond the Witchlight. I'm really curious about the pacifist mode. Did you hear about that?
No, I have not.
Oh, so Chris Perkins said in an interview,
Perkins.
You could go through the entire adventure without any combat. And I was like, that really is interesting to me. We'll see if it's just if your players do this really specific thing, then they don't have to fight, because how often is a player going to know to do that? But I don't know. I thought that was really curious.
and do you as a DM have to bend to make it happen, or is it just logically that just seems it's the logical
I don't know
way the world would run? I wonder about that. So so we've got that one coming on 9/21, just to keep everybody in the loop. We already know Fizban's Treasury of Dragons comes on 10/19, so a month later,
right before my birthday, if you're looking for a present for me. So, and
we haven't talked too much about Fizban's, only because I don't think we've had a lot of leaks about a ton of what's in it yet.
No, Strixhaven, we got playtesting material and stuff like that. But I think that Dragon Ranger is going to be in Fizban.
That would make sense.
And apparently they're expanding the lore of dragons in general.
Right.
To be what are the creator dragons at the beginning of the world. And you get gem dragons and stuff too. So from a lore perspective, I'm very curious, because they are, with this book, fundamentally changing the beginning of time. Because in the beginning it was there's a void, and then you have the far realm creatures, and then that got separated, and now we have all these multiverse whatever. But now they're saying even before all of that there were dragons, and there's a reason dragons hoard things, and it's because the original dragon did something similar, and that hoarding created the universe or something. So it's an innate thing for dragons, and I thought that was cool that they're tying it together. It seems neat.
I like the idea. See. Dungeons and dragons are your main thing. That just seems like a nice, cool fit. So that's our second book that we're waiting on, and then we get to, I think, probably of the three, the one me and you are most waiting for, Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos, on 11/16. So in November, just before Thanksgiving drops, we could be playing some Strixhaven campaigns.
I am very curious about this because, especially after talking with Simon from Aether Hub, because that was a fun video. If you haven't checked it out, it's on the main channel. But boy, like the whole dragons ruling people, and we talked a lot about it last week. But like, I'm excited for that one. So
my question came up. The reason I kind of threw them in the notes was, from a show like our standpoint, do you feel like it's better that they've told us about all these 3 books now? Or should they have only talked about one book at a time like they normally do? They don't normally tell us what the next book is before the book is out, right? They've always kind of keep a secret of what the next book is, build the hype up, then the next book comes out, we hear the announcement on the book.
Yeah, give it a couple weeks things for it about to sell, it, and then
but in this case, for those of us who are greedy and we want to know all the stuff that's coming, this is kind of a first where we know the next 3 books that are coming out. We already know what they are. We've seen cover art. We kind of know what's in each one of them. What do you think? Do you think they should have teased it out? Or do you like just having this big glut of information and now we're excited, but there's no more excitement to build on until next year when we find out, well, what's going to happen in 2022? You know,
they're trying to keep the hype going because they have that Dungeon Master challenge that's happening right now.
Yep,
but they're not doing a good job of it because I don't know who's in it and I don't know what's happening. I don't even know the judges, and so I'm like, I don't. And I am subscribed to many Wizards of the Coast pieces of social media, and I don't really know what's happening.
The only thing I saw recently is they're currently building a monster for this challenge, whatever that means.
Yeah, they have.
I don't know how many challenges were before. Yeah, exactly. I don't know how many more.
Exactly. That's the confusing part. I don't like this.
So there's your D&D news. So now you cannot possibly accuse our Saturday morning D&D show of not having D&D stuff in it. But there was something else I wanted. We're big MCDM fans here. I like to think of like AC/DC starts playing in my head whenever I think of MCD. Like I want that shirt that says that. And
welcome to the jungle.
No,
that's Guns N' Roses.
It's like Thunderstruck, or, Back in Black, that kind of stuff. He just did their Arcadia 7. They just did their Q&A on. I believe it is out now for your Patreon people. And for those that are a part of his Patreon, you can get those Arcadias. I think you can buy it separately. 6 was pretty popular. 7 is out now. And I believe it's more of kind of a tie-in. And I only say this, I don't think they're saying it's a tie-in. They have not mentioned that.
Yeah, they're not working with Wizards, I don't think.
Yeah, it is very Feywild-like issue, number 7. So it has a lot of that kind of stuff in it. So I feel like it could be considered a cool tie-in with Witchlight stuff, even though that's not what they were doing. So that was just kind of like my own opinion. But he also put out a running the game video. One of the reasons I like to point those out is because this whole show was kind of inspired just like by Matt and other people that put out how to run a game or how to be a dungeon master or how to get past that first, session. That kind of stuff is really what spawned us 176 episodes ago. And he's still putting out also running the game videos. So continuing to help people run the game, even though he's done Kickstarters and they're a full on almost publisher at this point. I don't even know if they should be considered indie anymore. The types of books they're putting out.
That's the problem with like the indie RPG community is, especially when you're making 5e content, people call it homebrew. They're like, oh, you're using that MCDM homebrew. And it's like, the quality and the play testing and everything. Like, this isn't Jordan sitting at a table making a couple of rules to get through a desert. Like, this is
a AAA product.
Yeah, they're making good stuff. And I again, am going to quote Sly Flourish because he keeps saying, don't think of Wizards of the Coast as the only ones that can make the official content for D&D. He's like, we need to treat everything that Wizards makes for D&D 5e the exact same as everybody else. So if I'm looking at like Strongholds and Followers, I'm just like, this is a great book. Like, I'm going to actively use this. Or some of this Arcadia stuff, you're like, yeah, I want to use the mounts. Like, they had a whole thing on mounts in Arcadia that I really wanted to use. And he's going to make a new Beastmaster kind of class, and they're focusing on the word companion, and they're working on that. And they have some really good designers, really good people working there. Not just people that, like, write a good article, but, like, game designers that are doing really good work. People that have worked for Wizards of the Coast,
yeah.
But
James
like Wizards is one of those weird not weird companies, but like Matt wants to hire people and pay them. And I think Wizards wants to grab people and have them somehow promote their products. So Sly Flourish had a really interesting.
They pay him.
Well, they do pay him, but Sly Flourish had a really interesting thing that he said the other day. I just really like Sly Flourish. He's got a show much like this, where he just kind of talks, but it's solo. He just talks about the news. And one of the things he was talking about is like, you know, we got a lot of these writers that have been writing for Candlekeep and things like that. It is his belief that they were chosen for their social media presence more than their writing presence. And it's like, why? Like, you have all of these people that are writing really great stuff for the DMs Guild. And Wizards of the Coast said specifically early on, the DMs Guild is where we're going to pull people out to write for real Wizards of the Coast products, because that's where we're going to see the stuff that you make. But then that has never happened. And instead, the people that are getting these writing gigs have a very large social media presence. And I love Amy Vorpal, and she's a really great dungeon master, and she's a really great writer. But like, I think she got that gig because of that. And then I think after her adventure for Candlekeep, they were like, we'll bring you on to Fizzbins because you're going to hit two birds with one stone. You have the social media presence to promote this book, but you also have writing skills. And so
I think we've talked about on this show too that in the last few years they've become a little starstruck. They become a little bit of they want to embrace the celebrity of the West Coast a little bit more than what we would think are their core community members or their core people that are out there pushing their game, like WebDM and all these other people that are day in and day out adding content and bringing people into the community. But when they want to do their events, they want to bring in Vin Diesel, or they want to, and I'm not against celebrities. I mean, I love that I got to see Jack Black on a game. I love that I got to see some of these people that are really cool inside a D&D game. It's cool, but it seems like they lean more towards that and not enough towards bringing in their community people that go to the conventions and run stuff for them constantly, keeping the community alive all year long and not just on, hey, I'm a celebrity and I'm going to play this one D&D game and, you know, I'm going to move on.
It's interesting with, now I'm just thinking about it, but like, it's interesting that, here's what I want to say. I would be curious to see the two different, like line charts. And so one is we get, and I'm going to use Vin Diesel. Okay. We're going to just talk, but like, if we get Vin Diesel, how many Vin Diesel fans are like, oh, Vin Diesel's playing D&D. I now want to be interested in D&D. Or how many, like, is that getting a lot of people to play Dungeons and Dragons? It's making a lot of headlines though. Like, you're not going to see a headline of like Lucian plays D&D with Wizards of the Coast because nobody knows
you're never
going
to see that.
So there's that aspect of it. And that might be exactly what they want now that I am thinking out loud. But the other side is like, what if you do get Lucian or Jordan and they play an online game, and then at the end it's just like, man, that was really cool, Jordan. And it's like, yeah, and I actually make all this content that's going to sell more books and help people. And I have a podcast. And like, I'm in the community that I want you to be a part of. Whereas Vin Diesel is not in the community that, but he's got a name that people are like, oh. And so when they throw together these games, like the Stranger Things game, I think was perfect. Where it's like all of these Stranger Things kids and the guy that plays the sheriff in Hellboy, I forget his name.
Yeah.
They played a game of D&D, but like, it was just kind of, if you weren't fans of them, it wasn't really a good game to watch because they don't know how to perform D&D like a Critical Role, or even like a lot of the Twitch streamers, how to make D&D interesting. So I would like to see which performs better, but I don't think Wizards of the Coast will do the other one because, well, they kind of tried for the Baldur's Gate one where they invited everyone to LA and they had like those streaming pods that you could do. But yeah, I don't know.
and I come from a spot where I realized that if all of a sudden Vin Diesel's agent reached out to us and said, hey, he really wants to be on the Saturday morning D&D show and talk to you guys about Dungeons and Dragons, and then Amy Vorpal reaches out, and then Jack Black wants to be on the show. Don't get me wrong, I will sell out as fast and as hard as Wizards of the Coast ever did to be able to talk with celebrities on this show. I get the draw. I get how you can become starstruck, and all of a sudden you have access to these people that we see on TV or on radio or on TV shows, and they're willing to come on your show and talk about a geeky topic. I'm all about it too. So we could easily be accused of the same thing if those opportunities were there. They have those opportunities, and they're definitely taking advantage of them. So when I throw my stone, I realize I live in a glass house. That's what I always think.
And it's interesting because what if we had like someone like, I don't know, Sly Flourish is kind of well known, but like I really think that
I'm going to reach out to Sly. I think we can get him on this show.
We could. Yeah, probably. Yeah. He's really awesome. I really like Justice Armin, and he's a really good writer. He does a lot of cool things. But if someone came to you and they're like, you're going to have Matthew Lillard or Justice Armin on, which one? But you have to choose one. You kind of know who you're going to choose. You do. Even though, I don't know, or Jack Black might be better, because it's like, I still want to choose Jack Black, even though Justice would be a way better D&D discussion, because Jack Black doesn't know D&D as well. So
yeah, and I'm a huge super fan of Jables. Yeah, I agree. Now, and our show has done a good job of bringing community members on. We've brought big community members on. The biggest, Colville has been on this show. WebDM has been on this show, all the way down to smaller content. And we brought them all on that are willing to come on, and I think that's been great. So, but I just wanted to say, our disclaimer there is that we could easily be starstruck too. I mean, it would be easy for stars reaching.
We're not above whatever else, and that's why I'm not.
So I don't begrudge them.
I don't either. Like, and it always comes down to their business, and they want to make money.
Yeah.
And any publisher is going to say, how can this book sell better? And they're going to look at you. And unfortunately, the world we live in now, I just know this because my mother is actually taking like a book writing course. And they say she's trying to write a book, but they told her straight up, don't use big, complicated words, because if your readers feel dumb, they're not going to recommend the book as much. And I was like, that's so sad, because back in the day, I remember like reading books with a dictionary on one side, trying to like, man, this guy's really smart. Like, what is going on with this book? But publishers want the book to sell. They don't want to educate people. They don't want to do all this other stuff. Like, they want to make money. And that's why you have the 50 Shades of Grey that does really well. But you have the other book that doesn't do as well. And I think Wizards of the Coast is a publisher, and they're going to do the same thing. So if a story by celebrity Amy Vorpal will sell more books because of her social media presence, that's what I want. I want her to do it. It's not about who wrote the best one. It's about what's going to sell better in a way. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
So before we move on, because you just brought up something that was interesting. What genre is your mom thinking about writing?
Oh, she's writing a historical fiction book. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm interested. Okay. Back on track. So we did some D&D news. I thought we'd branch out for just a single session, and I wanted to bring you a little bit of Pathfinder news.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let's talk about that.
So some upcoming releases for Pathfinder, the things that they have that the Pathfinder community are keeping an eye out for. Right now you can get their big Beastery 3 book. So they've got their third kind of monster manual-ish style book out. Things that are on the horizon for them. Adventure Path, Cult of the Cinders, and then in parentheses it says Age of Ashes 2 of 6. So I'm guessing it's an adventure that's 2 of 6 planned. So kind of
it like connects together probably. Yeah.
Right.
Or you could play it solo. That's kind of smart. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me go through them, and then I want to come back because I think keep that idea in your head. Okay. Pathfinder Core Rulebook Pocket Edition. I'm guessing these are a smaller format, easier maybe to use and flip through at the table.
Yes, I could grab it, but I have the Pathfinder. Pathfinder 1 Game Mastery Guide, which is the Dungeon Master's Guide Pocket Edition, and it's just a smaller print version on. I don't mean this negatively to Paizo, but cheaper paper, so that it's thinner and it's compact. But yeah, it's just like a little pocket that you can put it in your bag really quick.
So you're
not lugging around a hard book to places, kind of
like the big style. Yeah,
because sometimes you just need to look up a quick rule.
They're doing also the Beastry Pocket Edition. Then they're doing Pathfinder, Lost Omens, Absalom, City of the Lost Omens. So it sounds like a city book. Then there's going to be the Map Folio, which is coming out. There's a Game Master Guide Pocket Edition with the newest one, a Beastry 2 Pocket Edition. Here's the next Pathfinder Adventure Path, which is, I think, like their campaign books. Ruins of Gauntlight. And this is the Abomination Vaults 1 of 3.
How much do they make a year? Holy cow.
I don't know. So when I read those, I thought, well, this is interesting. We have two big, large companies, and we have Dungeons & Dragons, who's putting out campaign worlds, but they're kind of one-off at this point. I can't think of any linked book at this point that they put out where they've said, here's campaign book 1 of 3, Tyranny of Dragons, this, and then this, and you can put them all together, and that's one big adventure thing. Whereas it looks like Pathfinder's going that whole different route of, here's an adventure book. This one's 1 of 3, and the other one was like 2 of 6 for there. So you could actually, and I don't know how big these are, if they're comparable, print page wise or not. Any of you that might be Pathfinder fans out there, but I thought it was interesting to kind of bring it up because it's two companies in the same field. They're taking different approaches, which
is probably cool. Smart. Yeah, you don't just want to, I don't know, ride the coattails like, oh, if they're doing this, but try something different. But
and then Pocket Edition. So obviously their community is into that. We've not heard anything about a Pocket Edition of D&D, so that's not even on Wizards of the Coast radar.
Yeah,
just online. It sounds like it should be.
Beyond. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just thought that was interesting. I thought I'd bring those two up, and I thought maybe as we do more of the show moving forward too, we might bring in more of the bigger companies, what's coming up for them. So like to me, bigger
Pathfinder
companies
is a
like
logical
Monty
choice to talk
Pathfinder,
about too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we do talk about other RPGs, but you're right. Yeah. Like Pathfinder is, so
it's definitely within the wheelhouse of, kind of what we're doing. So it might be interesting for, just to keep track of what's coming up for those guys. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then I saw you sneak it into notes, which was really cool. And we'll get to that here in just a second. But looking at the two routes, which one are you interested in more? Are you interested? Would you, as a Wizards of the Coast content creator, as we have two different shows that have to do with Wizards of the Coast stuff, do you want adventure books, or I guess a campaign book that spans maybe 2 or 3 books? Or do we like the format that's a one-off book and we're done with it and we move on and we go do something else?
Here's the thing is, I guess it depends on how big they are. Because I don't want
I'm going to try to find it while you're saying that.
I don't want 6 Icewind Dale sized books, Rime of the Frost Maiden sized book, which I just looked at the other day, and it is quite thick. I don't think I want that spread out, but I like the idea of getting sections of a campaign, specifically the Tyranny of Worms, I think it was called. So I made a video on Chris, or Kyrus or something, who's a big worm evil god thing, and he's just like a huge pile of worms from a worm universe. And that story, that campaign, was released by Paizo when they were running Dungeon Magazine or Dragon Magazine in the 2000s for D&D 3.5, and they would be like, in that magazine, here's the first section. And then you'd have to get part 2 and part 3. So it kind of makes sense now that Paizo's still doing that. And I loved that idea because you get this, you play it, and then your players are like, what's going to happen next? And as a DM, I don't even know. Like, that's really cool. Like, we have to wait for the rest of this to come out. Like, I like that a lot, but you have also a self-contained thing. Secondly, Dungeon Masters steal all the time. So a lot of the times you buy Tomb of Annihilation and you're not running the whole thing. You just pull the things you want. Uh, so if it's not, if they want to release it short like that, I think that's kind of cool. You know, the Saltmarsh adventures were originally like that. They reprinted them for Ghosts of Saltmarsh, but originally it was, well, here's an adventure for 1 to 3. And then when you finish that, it's like, continue the adventure over here, and you go get another module and you play through that. Now we're kind of getting these 1 to 15 big expansive things. But it was very common to do, you know, this is 2 of 6. This is 3 of 6.
Yeah. Well, let me give you the pitch. Let me give you the high level pitch on that one of those books. See if we're just comparing styles. We're comparing, you know, like what the two companies are doing, and not saying one is better or the other. It's just a good idea to see how each one is doing it.
Oh,
so Citadel atop Hell Knight Hill. Yeah.
Oh, you can't see it on screen, but I have a sleeping Felix right behind me.
Nice.
And he's super adorable.
Cat pick. So a Citadel atop Hell Knight Hill has been claimed along with the Ring of Ancient Portals in its basement. What dangers lie beyond this magical portal? The other thing I like that this says is it's the Age of Ashes adventure path continues with Cult of Cinders, a complete adventure for 5th to 8th level characters. And here's a note. This product is part of the Pathfinder Adventure Path subscription.
Oh.
So that's an interesting thing where you could, maybe Wizards could do a adventure subscription, and then once a month or once every 2 months or whatever, a new adventure comes out for your subscription that is all tied together, maybe for the whole year or something. That might be really fun. And in the comments, one of the people said from that has played this book or has been playing these, I do find it interesting how it seems each of the 6 books are focused on helping a different one of the 6 core races. So that's how it's kind of a story tied together, and seems pretty positive from their community. So I just think that's pretty interesting. They sell a print edition, a PDF edition, and something called a non-mint edition, which I don't know if that's like a returned book or there's been a damage to it somehow.
I don't know.
But you could buy it. So $24, $17, well, I guess if I round up, 25 books, $18 for the PDF, or $18 for a non-mint version of this. I still haven't found page numbers like you said. I don't know if I want Tolus size books.
Yeah.
You know.
So, well, then it just comes down to, would you rather all of those be together? Like, think of Arcadia. Like, I really like Arcadia, but eventually they're going to bundle all of those into a nice Arcadia, like 2021, here's the year of Arcadia. I would much rather have that on my shelf than a bunch of subscriptions. So if they're splitting it up just so you are forced to buy more, not a big fan of that. But I'm thinking about, like, what if there was, what if Wizards of the Coast introduced a 12 chapter adventure that the events of happening in the Forgotten Realms actually created 6th edition.
Yeah.
Like, and so then to get the hype up, it's like, okay, we have January. Here's one. Zris says it's 64 pages.
So about half the size of a campaign book.
But like, what if it was a 12 chapter adventure and it's like, okay, now we're playing this, and you're like, what's happening? And they're not telling you it's about 6th edition.
Yeah, no, they're building the hype.
The speculativeness every month, and then the community talking about it and being like, I think this is going to happen, and like, have you played it? What are your thoughts? And so that would be really cool. And they kind of did that with Magic the Gathering Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, where the story of the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms Magic the Gathering thing, they released 4 little adventures, of which I've only read 2 so far. I need to keep reading them, but they're all out now. But that was kind of fun, is I'm like, I don't know who's the villain. I got to wait a week for the next one to come out. So
yeah, and they used to do it back in the day where, as a dungeon master, you would pick up the newest adventure, you would play that with your group. Your group might get done with it before the next one was out, and you were waiting so that you could continue your adventure in the next one that you knew was coming out, all tied together, you know, but you got to build that anticipation. You got to play a couple of other games, maybe for a couple of weeks before that next new one come out. And then the new one hits, and the dungeon master's got to be ready because that next session is going to be big because now we're back onto this big
that would
adventure
be like,
again.
And the players are just like, oh man, I haven't been able to play my GIJOE wizard in so long. I'm so excited. So
there's something to it, I think.
No, for sure. I wonder if you could do a business model of just adventures like that. So
yeah,
because Arcadia is doing that, but they're also putting in lots of other stuff. So
yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool. So it's an interesting way to do it. They're obviously doing it. So I thought I'd bring that up. And then I saw you put in our notes, which was really good. Last week, I thought we had a great discussion about this idea that if somebody wanted to topple Wizards of the Coast as being at the top of the mountain, and they wanted to do it with a universal system, or they wanted to do it with a new system, would it be a niche system? How could you possibly do it? I really only thought, my opinion was, you'd have to tie a good system. It'd have to be pretty good. It'd have to work, but you'd have to tie it with an IP that's popular, right? And I felt like if you could pick just the right one, you might be able to gain enough traction to really make a run for their money, right? And then you sent this article, so I'll kind of let you set it up. You posted it in Discord, and I was like, whoa, this is cool.
Yeah. So Renegade Game Studios, and they are the ones that have Kids on Bikes. And what's the color one that you've played? It's something Overlight.
Yeah, Overlight.
Yeah, Overlight is Renegade Studios as well.
Yep.
They're creating they're introducing the Essence 20 role-playing system. So Essence 20 is a D20 system neutral role-playing system that they are going to use to facilitate role-playing in different IPs. Now,
give me one of them. Give me at least one.
This is weird because I don't know about Power. So the three are Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, and Transformers.
Yes.
Is Power Rangers Hasbro?
Possibly.
G.I. Joe and Transformers are owned by Hasbro.
Because it says licensed by Hasbro.
Yes. So we're going to say all three. I probably could be wrong about Power Rangers, but I know for a fact G.I. Joe and Transformers. So now we're going to have G.I. Joe, the role-playing game, Transformers, the role-playing game, fueled by this Essence 20 RPG system. Now, if I was Hasbro and I own Wizards of the Coast and I own Transformers, why don't I say, hey, use a watered down 5th edition
5e
version of D&D, and we're going to slap some robots on it and call it Transformers, and then we're going to sell it. But instead, they have licensed out Transformers to Renegade Game Studios, and they're going to make it. Now, is Essence 20, which we know nothing about, is that going to be that watered down 5e that we're all thinking it is?
Right. Well, it could be. What if it's better than 5e?
I don't know.
What kind of problem are you creating?
But it says it's a D20 based system. The core mechanic for resolving a roll is you roll a D20 along with a skill die, and a skill die ranges from a D2 to a D20. And the result of the D20 and the skill die must exceed the difficulty of the test of your DC that you're trying to get. So you're rolling 2 dice. It's always a D20 plus something else. And so hypothetically, if you have a D12 and a D20, you're better at that skill, I'm assuming. So I wonder if that's how it's set up, is that everything is, well, this is really difficult. You need to roll a D20, and you're like, well, I've got a D8 in fighting, so I'll try, but then you have a D4 in stealth or something. But you still could get really lucky and roll high on that D20. I don't know.
I will be playing Transformers for sure, so we will know.
So I'll put a link here in chat so you guys can read the article. But
now it is interesting. One of the things maybe we should know, but I learned usually when you have these shows that are Saturday morning shows, comics, that then got turned into possibly movies, feature movies that were released, and then they had toy lines. A lot of times, each one of those licenses could be owned by somebody else, right? So the cartoon license could be owned by one company. The movie license for those could be owned by another company. The toy line can be owned by one company. And then the comics could be owned by like DC or Marvel or Image. And any one of those you could approach and say, for my role-playing game, for your D6 module game, if we couldn't get Hasbro's toy line to let us use their Transformers, we could go over to the who owns the cartoon rights and say, hey, can we use your license to make our RPG game based off of the cartoon show that you put out on Saturday mornings? And they could say, sure, let's write up a license deal. Or we got shot down there, we could then go over to whoever did the movies and say, you know, so there's all these licenses out there that you could kind of tackle. And it was made apparent to me when the He-Man show came out on Netflix, because they were talking about the He-Man show that they could make for Netflix could only use the toy universe because they had partnered with Mattel. They couldn't necessarily pull in cartoon stuff unless it was part of Mattel's universe as the toy universe.
Weird.
And they did get permission to use some of the comic book stuff, but it was DC that owned that. So they would have had to have cleared anything that might have happened in DC that then wanted to get pulled into the Netflix show. So it was really interesting to realize that a product isn't just licensed to one company. It can be licensed to a lot of companies, and you can approach it from that. You can get permission from all of them or only one of them. And I think whatever you're trying to do.
A lot of people sell that now that I think about it. That's just how it works. So let's say Jordan creates Kami no Kami, the paper god, which is mine. None of you have the rights. TM, trademark. So I own Kami no Kami, the smallest paper god, and somebody says, I want to make a TV show, or not even that. Like I could say, well, you pay me so much to use my intellectual property, but sometimes it's just like, no, I'll sell you the rights. And so they pay me upfront $1 million. And now they own the ability to make a TV show based on that. And I don't anymore. I sold it, for $1 million, even though I came up with it. So what you're saying is completely legitimate. It makes a lot of sense. Where they're like, I'm He-Man, but Mattel is the only, so I can only use Mattel stuff. And that's kind of interesting to like sub-license what you bought.
So that's what I was wondering. So like this Transformers, you might be thinking, well, it might only be the stuff Hasbro has access to, and it might not include, because there's been a bunch of Netflix shows recently on Transformer stuff, War of Cybertron and all that kind of stuff. But they might not be able to use that in their book if it wasn't part of the toy line licensing that they had. So it'll be interesting, but I'm super excited because that's 3 huge 80s and 90s IPs, 3 huge backed up cartoons, big pop culture followings behind each one of them.
Well, and we remember Transformers as kids, but like the new movies that come out, that was also a whole bunch of nostalgia for kids. Who are now older and probably playing role-playing games. So
you got like Beast Wars, you've got the dinosaur Transformers, you've got the cartoon ones. They made movies that came out in theaters that were animated movies. So I mean, they were big. And GI Joe has movies, live action movies, TV shows. Definitely one of the coolest toy lines in my opinion. And Power Rangers is just as big, even if I haven't. It's still going strong. All the different shows that have spun off from Power Rangers. Are you kidding me? There's a ton of them.
So if you're interested in this, apparently last night, Friday night, August 27th, twitch.tv/play Renegade, they ran a game of Power Rangers role-playing using this new system. So
I'm gonna have to go back and look at it because it had Xander on it, Carlos Luna, he's from Roll20. Kate Wilson is familiar to me too in some way. I'm forgetting how. Erica Fermi, we've seen her on in the Twitter community quite a bit. I'm gonna have to go look and see how that system plays. I think. See if they got that still up on Twitch.
I bet they do. So because they want to advertise it. So
that adds like a lot of stuff. Like there's so many angles.
and so I wonder. I don't know. Now that because we just said some stuff about 6th edition. I wonder if this is also a like precursor to 6th edition. And then we'll make it a little more complex for D&D and things like that. I don't know. But the idea that you have I roll a d20 plus my strength, but my strength is actually 1d4 or something,
Ted, if you're out there listening, I want a TED video on the conspiracy that Essence 20 is actually 6th edition in testing.
Did you go through the Wizards of the Coast quiz, or not quiz, but the survey they did.
Oh, yeah,
That
they have a
huge
survey
one?
on their player's handbook
Yeah.
one. That
And
just
it's
came out,
about
too.
how satisfied are you with every class in the player's handbook
I did
and
do that
every ability that class has. So it's
Yeah,
like
it's huge.
it was so big. You get to fight her, and it's like every maneuver. Like, how satisfied are you? And they want to know, which you're just giving them free information if you want to. But I casually watched part of Ted's video, Nerd Immersion's video, on him going through it, and I was like, that's a lot. I don't want to go through it, so I haven't submitted
That's
anything.
too
but
much for you.
I believe that is also a 6th edition precursor. They want to know what you thought about this, so that they either include Counter Charm in 6th edition, or they get rid of it because nobody likes it and nobody knows what it does.
So I thought that was interesting when we saw it. I was super excited on a ton of fronts. I'm excited for it. I want to see it. I want to be a part of it. I want to know where I can buy it.
Yeah.
Did they have any release dates or anything yet? I don't remember seeing any of that in the article.
No, it was just like, hey, we're talking about it. So
yeah. So posted by Renegade Games on August 26th. I'm going to have to go over their website and see if they've got anything else.
Release dates.
Yeah.
On their
So
website.
Maybe it's out.
I do. Oh, that's a June release. That was supposed to come out. So, Kids on Bikes, they made a board game out of the RPG.
Oh yeah.
Called the Snallygaster Situation. I can read. It's the font. But it looked like a really fun board game if you like Kids on Bikes. But I haven't picked it up. But yeah, lots of Power Rangers board games. So maybe they own the rights for Power Rangers.
So yeah, I'm going to start keeping an eye on Renegades here, because I did their Kickstarter for Overlight, which was a beautifully done book. Love Kids on Bikes. I mean, that had to have been.
They redid.
Did that come out in 2019?
That's right. Kids on Bikes.
They do that in 2019. Kids on Bikes. Is that when we got it? We went to Gen Con and picked it up right there at the. On the floor, the show floor. We picked your book up.
Yeah, you're right. I did. Yeah, I got it there.
18 or 19? 2018, 2019. Whatever it was, that was my
2018
RPG
was my
of
first one. 2019 I went second year, and then third year was 2020, which we didn't go because the world imploded. So yeah, it was 2018 is when I picked it up. Yeah, and I picked it up because that free RPG day they came out with a free module for it, and I was like, this looks cool. Right. So yeah.
To me, whatever year that one was, that was my RPG game of the year. They won for me. Fun. That was so good.
They have a post-apocalyptic version of it now too. They came out with Kids on Brooms, obviously.
Right.
But they made another one, and I forget what it's called, but it's scout themed, but you're a scout in a post-apocalyptic radioactive world.
Oh,
and so it's this survival kind of based game, but you're a kid, and so it looked fun.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Interesting. Scout Apocalypse. You have to get your apocalypse badge. You have to survive.
Something. I don't know. Yeah, no word on the Essence 20 system, which is an interesting name for it. I don't know. Essence 20.
So that was the news that I thought we would bring, that I was able to gather, and I knew that Jordan would have fun talking with while getting his system set up and created. Other than that, I had no game because we had one of our players was sick. He is in the hospital, so we were all sad about it, so we didn't really want to play without him, so we waited. Hopefully, I believe he's home now. Not that he's feeling great yet, but we believe he's home now, so maybe this coming Tuesday we will get to play. We'll see. But what about Jordan? So if the computer went down, my only guess is you didn't play very many online games over this last week. Did you play any in-person games over this last week?
So I played Sunday night, last Sunday, I had the play test for modular D6. And man, making a game is difficult. It was I got a lot of really good feedback, but the more I thought about that night, I came to the conclusion after a long talk with my spouse and a long talk with just myself trying to figure things out that I'm like, I don't think this is ready for us to actively play it. And what I want to do next is refine the character creation so I really understand what benefits I'm giving to people and what I'm taking away. And then I just want to overhaul stuff. And it's weird because it's like you put so much writing into it that you're like, part of you is like, well, I worked so hard on this, I need to stick with it. But another part of me is like, I need to throw that all away and just start from scratch. And that's kind of how I felt after that night.
Yeah.
So I am putting that on hold.
Sure.
And I talked to my players and they were like, oh, we'll keep playing. Like, they just want to play games. And I was like, I don't want to keep playing modular D6 right now. I think I need to go back to development and see what happened there, kind of a thing. Right. So I gave them a list of games that I am willing to run. One of them,
what was this list?
D&D 5e Eberron campaign.
Okay.
And they said, oh, okay, yeah, like that'd be kind of cool. And they're all familiar with 5e, so they're like, yeah, we could play that. The other one, actually, let me go to my computer that works now. Huzzah. So I can remember exactly what I told them. And then you guys should tell me, like, what should I run? We haven't decided yet. Let's see. Okay, here it is. I'm looking at it. Stop yelling at me.
No.
D&D 5e Eberron campaign. Dungeon Crawl Classics something. Go ahead and take a drink, Danimal. And this could be like running through some modules. Eventually, I want to run Peril of the Purple Planet as like a long form adventure, a hex crawl. So I was thinking I might do Dungeon Crawl Classics using some modules and kind of build a story from it, or rerunning Sword Coast. The Dark of Hot Springs Island. I want to rerun that using DCC. I think that could be fun.
Can I add one to your list?
Go ahead.
Or have they already chosen?
No, they have not chosen. So
Azhag.
Oh yeah, a Zag. We could do that. That'd be interesting.
And play the music while you're playing.
Yeah, that was Lex's game. For those of you who don't know.
Lex.
The other one is I gave him 5 options. The third one is Forbidden Lands. And the more that I read Forbidden Lands, the more I really like it. I picked up one of the adventures Ben Milton of Questing Beast fame wrote. Yeah. It's very good. I like the world. It comes with a big map. Like, I think it would be really cool to just like dig my teeth into that system. Old School Essentials, which we played. I haven't released that video yet, but we had a really fun time playing through Old School Essentials. And I want to use the XP actual like award experience points so people level up at different times, and I think that could be a lot of fun. And then last but not least, do you know what it is? Do you want to guess?
What haven't you named this point? You've named them all: Hot Springs Island, DCC, Eberron, because you've been talking about Eberron, or the Drow campaign.
Yeah,
that you've been wanting.
I did bring that one up.
Okay.
This is a Monty Cook game.
Oh, did you tell him you would try to run Invisible Sun?
Yes,
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
So I laid it out really well. I was like, if we do Invisible Sun, it's going to be kind of complicated. I need your help, but I think it would be a lot of fun. So we'll see what kind of game they want. A lot of people are on board for different things. They're going to come over tomorrow night to play our RPG. That's like our scheduled time now, is we're going to play on the weekends. But in that version, or tomorrow night's game is going to be deciding what we play. So I'm going to lay out all of the books, because I think for me, like, deciding is kind of hard when you're talking. But if I can pick up the book and flip through it and be like, oh yeah, I want to play this. Like, this looks so cool. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of flip through it and see what people are interested in. We're going to make a decision. If we have enough time, maybe we'll talk about creating characters for whatever system we play in, or we'll just play a regular board game that night and see what happens. But cool. Very excited for that.
I almost like the idea that you would make a game out of choosing the next game. I don't know how you could do it like in the time that you have left. Like you would have them sit down, they build characters, and these characters are going to choose the destiny of the next campaign.
Fight to the death
in some way. Yeah. It's like they have to do Olympic kind of challenges, or they have to do crazy things to push the one they want up higher, and then at the end you tally all the points. Or if it's like a football draft thing where everybody's puts them in, the order that they want to play them in, and you do the math. Just something gamey about choosing the next game, I think would be pretty funny.
That would be fun. So, yeah. So modular D6 is going to be on hold. I don't know. It's really interesting. I think I'm so familiar with a D20 based system that trying to make this, the reason I stopped is I realized in my head I was trying to make this multi D6 system work like a D20 system. And a D20, you have a 5% chance of getting any of those numbers. But when you have like 3d6, you have a very small chance to get 18 and 3, but you have a very high chance of getting like 8 to 12.
You're shrinking the variability up. There's a lot of math.
The more dice I add, which on paper I thought that was really cool to be like, no, like I'm getting better at something, so I have more dice to roll. It averages it out. But your average doesn't, it just didn't work.
Yeah, it creates your middle becomes your bigger range because the more dice you add, the more it's going to fall within just being an average. Yeah.
I think players, and I saw this with my players, they didn't get the same feeling of, I roll this many dice for this of thinking you're good at it. They didn't get the same feeling of that as they would, I have a +2 to this. And I was like, and they're also familiar with D&D, so maybe that has something to do with it. But it got me thinking a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse, where you only roll 2d6. You don't add extra dice. And so because of that, the person who wrote that system could very easily be like, these are your extremes. These are your natural 20s, your crit fails, and your crit successes. And here's in the middle. But like, you're never rolling more than 2d6. So that system figured out how to use 2d6. What I'm trying to do with like throwing more and more dice at it, I was like, this just isn't as much fun. So we'll see.
Sometimes you do got to go back to the drawing board. There'll be a lot of there'll be a lot of ideas that will still come over. Yeah. But maybe you'll scrap one piece of it and be like, okay, I'm going to try this other piece now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then run with the rest of what I built, and see if I can make those things work too. I also like the idea, I know we're over a little bit, but sometimes I think you have to break down what you're doing into its components and then focus on them for a little bit. So like you said, character creation is a component of any game. Sometimes you got to pull it away from stuff. Can we make this piece fun? Just this piece, whether we played with it or not, could this piece be fun? And then you could say, well, what is it about a non-combat challenge? How do I make a non-combat challenge fun? Do I make it a game? Do I make it rolling dice? Do I make it skill checks? Do I do these things? How do I make this piece fun? How do I make the combat sequence fun? We're in combat. How does that look? How does that play? Is that whole cohesive thing fun? And then I can bring those parts together and really see, did the overall thing come together because I broke them down into what they were. Is leveling up fun? Is that a core fun feature, or is my game lacking in that spot where, I have all my cool stuff that I built in the beginning, but I don't really have anything to look forward to after that, so we lose interest. Is being a DM, are there parts that I'm offering that are going to be fun for the DM making something? Or is there a way I can make that fun for them? Or is there not? Maybe there's not, but I like the idea that you're going to break it down into its core elements and say, let me look at this piece and let me try to figure out what I like, what I don't like, what fits now, what doesn't fit.
And what I was trying to do is I wanted to play a campaign to hopefully just like address all of that at once.
Right.
But now that I have done that, that was a mistake for Jordan.
That was okay.
And the approach you just listed out, so much better, where you're like, we're going to make 40 characters tonight. Is this fun? And then it's like you're not playing with them. All you're doing is like building characters and deciding if that's an enjoyable experience and if it's working correctly. Then I would be like, okay, now we're going to move on to the next part,
cool.
And so this is how, 5th edition got exploration completely wrong, I think.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like they didn't spend enough time on like, is the act of exploring the world fun? And it's kind of not, and because the tools they gave us aren't that robust. Right. But like combat, super fun. Like, love that a lot. Character creation, super fun. Love that a lot. Yeah. So you're right. Yeah.
Leveling up in D&D, I still think is one of the best games out there RPG wise for when you've got a new level and you've made the next level. That excitement that you have is better than just about any other game, because even in those other games, you might be able to pick a power, you might be able to do something, but it's not the same feel as knowing you're going from 1 to 20 in Dungeons and Dragons. Nobody else really seems to have that, but Pathfinder probably comes close, though we don't play it much. But even the Monty Cook games, I think that's one place where they lack a little bit, and I love Monty Cook games, is that idea is that my character's leveling up and it be exciting and fun and meaningful. I don't feel like they've captured it like Wizards of the Coast has. So I think it's a good idea that what you're doing, and just keep plugging away or taking a break too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to step away, do some other things. Those creative juices will come back, and then you'll hit it full force again, and you'll keep moving. So
yeah. The only other thing that maybe we can talk about this next week too is there was some talk online of the monk is not a good character class, and I didn't believe that. When a lot of people were like ragging on the monk, I'm like, stunning strike and all this. I was like, they're so powerful. They're so this, like, how is it? But I played my monk on Thursday. I'm doing a monk in a campaign that DM Nathan is running. And I'm starting to believe that. Like, I was like, a lot of my abilities, excuse me, a lot of my abilities are not, I don't know, they're just not fun. And then I feel like less of a fighter, which is weird to have that thing. So maybe we'll talk about monks next week. You guys should tune in. I'm having a new thoughts about the monk class, and I was like, I think they could improve this. And I always said that it was really powerful, but now I'm like,
is Ranger bad? Is that where you're going?
No, I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe
we'll
it's
talk
just
about
not
it
my
next
play
week.
style either. Like, I just got bored with like hitting things, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do cool magic. I'm playing the wrong class. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We will be back next week. I will warn you, I don't think our outro screen has any music on the YouTube side because I'm still putting this together, but hang in there. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Anything else before we take off, sir?
Nope. Just let us know in chat and in Discord, join our Discord, what you guys liked about the show. If you do want to hear more about Pathfinder, or if that's a bad idea on our part, bringing you that kind of news.
Yeah, they were all about it. So
cool. All right. Well,
everyone was really excited about Pathfinder stuff, so maybe we should keep talking about that.
All right. That's it for me. I can't wait to see everybody next week.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.